visual writers.
What's poppin', what's poppin', what's poppin'? Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the live show. So, of course, do us a favor. If you're watching this live, let us know where you're watching this from. Of course, like so the algorithm could love us. Share this with a few people. Episode 146 dropped today. Okay, air horns for that. Air horns for that. So go check that out. The audio experience is out. We talked about a new ChatGPT competitor. We talked about the one person business model. We talked about a lot of things. Something you should watch and listen to. But Moose, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get this hat brim to be a little bit, you know what I'm saying, more sophisticated, but it's not, I don't know, maybe, you know what, it's because the camera's reversed, so it's not functioning with me right now. But other than the lopsided hat brim, man, things are gravy on this side.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry it's lopsided. I'm sorry. It happens.
Gotta be real. You know?
It happens.
How you doing though?
I'm good. I'm Gucci. Me and Aaron were talking about Teslas, so now I'm looking up Teslas for no reason. Not that I have any plans of buying it this year, but looking at it and seeing like, oh, okay.
Hey, you never
It's
know.
not that bad.
You never know.
Nah, I see it maybe 2-3 years. 2-3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because my car is still good. And my car is still good.
Yeah, no, that takes discipline though. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, once they get to a certain level, they're like, everything old out now. Get out of my house. So that's dope. Is you still hanging on to that?
Oh no. I could chill off that. But Moose, what are we talking about today?
Man, I'm pretty excited about this because we have, well, at least me privately, I've been thinking about what are some of the foundational steps or phases into figuring out how to start a brand. And so, there is, of course, the opportunity to pick out what industry, what type of brand, all of these different things. But then there is one key approach, one key thing that eventually determines how well your brand succeeds in whatever given industry or niche marketplace that you decide to be in. So as I get rolling with this, man, I really want to make sure that y'all are tapping in. So make sure you share this with a couple of people. We're still on the mark for 100. So I'd love to see 100 live viewers on here. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments as well. Drop a 1 if you're feeling great. Drop a 2 if it's not so good. Hopefully it won't go 2 days with you dropping 2s in the comments. And of course, drop a 1.5. We do take the middle, 1.5, 1.75, depending on we kind of work it. So I see y'all tapping in and let's go for it. But Nick's the thing that we're going to dive into, of course, is brand awareness. And for those of you who want just a simple definition for what is brand awareness, but it's really the concept of what do people in the marketplace think about when they see your brand, right? And so I have some examples of what that means for product and service-based businesses, more specifically products, because I think it's easier to make a connection with something. But the part that I really want to dive into today with you, because of your unique experience and expertise, it's how does that apply to personal brands? So for example, some of the case studies that I was looking at, they talked about Gillette, and they were saying that Gillette razor, they have always been known for facial hair, but they put out a product that marketed to men wanting to shave or clean up their body hair. Now, that's one of those things that is not regularly talked about, right? Even if men do so, they do it probably in private. It's not a comfortable thing to talk about. We've seen other brands come out and really focus on that exact thing, right? Like helping men to become more open about the idea of how they go about their grooming. And so they talked about how simple adjustments in their strategy and targeting mobile first, opening up the conversation, brought light to the product. And that product ended up, they launched it, and it was the number one selling product on Amazon for 3 straight months. And it was the top selling product for about a year. They sold 500,000 of these razors. So it's crazy numbers, right? When you think about what happens when you get companies to identify with your brand, and by simply making that connection with them, what that does into translating. Yes, thanks, Marshall, for putting that, because Manscaping is the company I was thinking about. I didn't remember their name, but they, as you know, they have hit the marketplace openly talking about, men's grooming, et cetera. But the point is that ends up attaching a name or a thing, something that the marketplace remembers you by when they think of your brand. And so I think there's an interesting approach when it comes to doing that for a product-based business, because you have a physical product that you're trying to do that for. And so your approach can, vary, or you have some options. But to do that based on your own personal brand, it takes a very unique experience, I feel. So, Nix, I wanted to, of course, get your take on, maybe in your own words, what is brand awareness? And then let's dive into how do we do that for personal brands specifically, because of course you've done it with and for yourself. You've done it alongside E, there's a lot that has gone into that. And I think most people don't feel as comfortable doing it with and for themselves than when they're doing it for a product, right? There's that detachment of I'm doing it for a product versus I'm doing it for myself. So, yeah.
I got you. So, I don't think it's a huge difference with I'll say with, hold on, let me check something. All right. With a product or a person, I don't really think there's a difference with it. Reason why is because you still have to show its true authentic self. Sometimes we look at a product and we don't think it has a story or it has any kind of feelings or anything of that sort, but you have to put emotions into it. You have to put a storyline to it. You have to put maybe even some values and beliefs in why people may use a product. That's a lot easier with a person because you don't have to plant that. You don't have to plan that. You are just who you are. So when we're talking about brand awareness, especially in social media, it's really very simple. Put your brand out there, period. Okay? Put your brand out there where it is from a video form, written form, audio form, or photo. Figure out your way of doing that. That's one. Of course, content is going to always be that main situation. Now, collaboration is another way for brand awareness, right? This is where now you're getting in front of other people's audiences so people can know who you are. So that could be going on people's lives, collaborating on a post. That could be a collaboration on some products, whether it's like merch. That could be jumping on somebody's podcast, somebody's event, co-writing in a book, however your collaboration is. But that is one of the main ways to get your brand out there to the world. Then another way for brand awareness is getting outside, okay? Going to these events that is in your niche, that is in your field, and you are now doing kind of hand-to-hand combat, right? You can, from let's say, even though not everybody's going to do this, but we're doing this for, Deeper Than the Brand and my brand, we're going to Invest Fest, and though I'm speaking, we do have a booth as well. Why? Because there's 20,000 people who are going to be there. I'm only going to be speaking maybe for an hour of the 3 days, where we're strategically We placed our booth in a very strategic place so we can have brand awareness. Not so much for the sales or anything like that, but for people to see this is deeper than the brand. What is that? We want people to at least ask, what is that? You know, who is Nicky? Right? So are you getting outside and trying to connect with people for them to at least be like, who are you? I want to know more about you. Building the curiosity is what helps with brand awareness. Oh, I can't hear you.
Man, that's so good. Yeah, no, that's good. There's a lot that goes into that, and as I'm thinking about it, there is the beginning process of just simply communicating that. Of course, that storyline. We talk a lot about stories or storytelling in general. We talk about, of course, identifying your values, because I think there's something that resonates between the audience or a particular marketplace and the values of the person who's putting out the content, the information, or just the person behind the brand in general. What maybe advice would you give to someone who who's at this part or who's at this point, but is maybe overlooking that information, their story, their values, the things that they believe in, why they're really wanting to be in the industry? Like, for example, I remember when you would talk about, the main reason for going live every single day, and I still remember this part. I think that's one of the most admirable things, that you did in the beginning of developing the brand, was to go live every day to show people, hey, you don't have to have your hair and makeup perfectly done to be on social media. Like, there is so much that goes into making content, but more importantly, there are people who are waiting on your message. And when you don't speak, the people who are just putting out garbage content get way more face time ahead of you. And that's not right. And so I think there is probably not as much public information or personal information about you that people know, but people will always know, most people know, why you're doing this, right? I try to do the same thing for myself. I've always talked about openly that, whether you know my story or you don't, I made it very public in the beginning and then kind of pulled back quite a bit. The goal still is to unite people of diverse backgrounds, right? That's the overarching why, value, or the real mission behind why we're doing what we're doing, both individually and collectively. So the question to you is, what advice would you give to someone who's at this point and is maybe not really appreciating that part of the process, their story, their values, their why, to build around that? Because brand awareness, it's not just having someone know you for something, but also knowing the why behind you want to be known for that thing.
So you're asked, what exactly are you like? That was very deep.
Yeah, I'm just saying, in a society today that is becoming more to the point, right? Because of all of the stuff that's happened in the industry, I know that it's also important to not downgrade or turn down the importance of our own personal stories, right? Our values, because as it's important to be known for something. That's what brand awareness is. Like, what do people know you for? What's the word that comes to mind when people think of you? Okay, great. But more importantly, it's why do you want to be known for that, right? I think giving the marketplace a real valid reason for why we're doing this is a way to also attract people, to get people to know you for something. So I'm saying, what advice would you give to someone who is maybe struggling to land on that exact position? Like, man, how do I define my story, that brand story, or the values, or maybe blend the values of myself and the mission that I want to be a part of to the brand so that people can understand the story that goes along with it?
I think people struggle with that part because they don't know it. They don't know their own story, or they don't put, what's the word that I want to look for? They don't put respect on their own story and their beliefs and their values, right? It's hard to articulate certain like brand images if you don't believe it yourself. If you don't believe that people should listen to it, should watch it, should read it, there's like, I know I need to do this, but is it really going to work? Do people really want to hear it? Like, is my why that? I don't feel like it's that important. And those little doubts is what also creates the brand confusion, right? So when we're talking about, let's get us right, let's figure out why we created the brand, let's figure out who we're trying to serve, let's figure out some of the values that we're trying to give, some of the beliefs that we have, in order to be able to articulate it to our audience, to say a story, to create shareable content, to be able to then eventually monetize and create converting content. Be able to have a website that totally speaks to who we are, why we do it, and what we do, right? But if we don't really put respect on, this is who I am, this is how I got through what I got through, or why I create what I create, or the experiences that I've done, and this is who it's for, then it's hard to go into other steps of creation for brand awareness, collaboration for brand awareness, going outside for brand awareness, because when people are asking who you are, you really don't know. Like, we know, but we don't, right? When we're being exposed in these collaborations, people are going to go back and they're not going to feel the confidence in your brand because you lack that. And not no shade or anything in that sense. Like, this is all new to us. Being a brand, period, is new to us. Not new to what we've seen, but new to us actually doing it. So, yeah, there's going to be some doubts and things like that. But what we have to do is just feel firm and feel and put respect to what we are creating, and that we know there's going to be some bumps in the road. And I'm also going to document that too. I'm also going to talk about that too, because that creates the authenticity. Because once they come through, they have to stay. And when you get the brand awareness and now they're looking at everything that you're doing, the presence and the authenticity is what's going to keep them to stay. Your expertise, absolutely. Your experiences, absolutely. You know, the value that you give, absolutely. But what's going to truly make them stay and become loyal fans is your authenticity and your presence.
Yeah, so critical. You know, the reason why I was asking that question too is because a lot of times when you mentioned collaboration at the front end of this, to say, hey, collaboration is one of the ways that you can definitely gain brand awareness, which again is the thing, the concept of getting people to know your brand, right? If we were just to simplify it down to nothing, what do people think about when they think about you and or your brand? That's brand awareness. And so collaboration definitely is one of the ways to do that. But the reason why I bring up the point around your story and more specifically your values, it's because it becomes a lot easier to do collaboration when you know what your values are, right? Because there's a lot of great ideas that will be thrown at you, that you will see, that you will be able to come up with. But if you don't have those guiding principles around, all right, how does this push my mission further out? Because, does it make sense? Or in my opinion, I know somebody like Donald Trump says, all publicity is good publicity. Bad publicity, good publicity, it doesn't matter. You just want people to know your name. And so even from his position, for as hated as he is, you can't doubt the fact that millions, if not hundreds of millions of people know who Donald Trump is. Right? Because he used that strategy. Just get people to know your name. Now, when you take it a layer deeper and you say, okay, well, what do people also know or associate with your name when they think about your name? And so when you define those values ahead of time, it helps to keep a clean slate on your name. You're never going to think of ET and say, oh, my terrible character. As a matter of fact, the first thing that you're probably going to think about when you think about ET is character. Of course, after motivation and great energy. And so the point with this is to say, when you define the values, don't underestimate this concept in the process of developing brand awareness, because you want to go with this already defined. So as you're approaching what to do, what not to do, who to collaborate with and who not to collaborate with, you have some things holding you accountable for how to make that happen. So the values piece, it goes beyond just simply saying a compelling reason for why people should rock with your brand.
Facts. Thanks.
Tell us a little bit more about that one word process, because I remember there was a time where you were doing the exercise and you were saying, hey, what's the first thing you think of? And you would give examples, right? You would say, of course, like E and Alex Good Energy and Toby. And you were doing that exercise with the audience to see how well these people have started to push this concept or this one word into their brains. Like, you automatically think about them. And it's true. Like, I know with Alex Good Energy, and shout out to him, also a member of probably the live show. I don't know if we ever had him on the podcast, but definitely on the live show. I can't help drive by an 18-wheeler on the highway and not think of him, right? It's like every time you see him, I'm either saying to myself, let me drive as far away from this thing so that, God forbid, this trucker, don't hit me. But I'm also thinking of like, Alex has done such a great job of reminding or pushing his brand in front of us that you can't see a truck without thinking about his name. Like, his name has become synonymous with good energy. Now, what I love about what's happening with him too right now is that he's at a point where he's almost transitioning and starting to give us new words or new things to also think about when it comes to his brand. But talk about that exercise for a second in terms of defining that word and then actually taking steps to get people to think about you on that. I'm sure content plays a big part of it, but just talk about maybe your secret sauce or formula for making it happen.
So we have to think about the importance of branding, right? And branding is really what people are like. What is the word? What is the phrase that is burnt in people's minds about you, right? Not what you think it is, but what people know your brand for. And so, when we're talking about the one word, what word is associated with you and your brand? And if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, put in the comments in the chat, what word do you want to be associated with, right? Where we look at Jordan, that's basketball. We look at Gary Vee, that's entrepreneurship, right? We look at Eric Thomas, that's motivation, right? We look at, who else? We look at Elon Musk, I mean, mainly now Tesla, but, there's a lot of other things that could happen, right? Jeff Bezos, Amazon, right? You want to be, now granted, there may be phrases, right? But you want to be associated with a word so you know that it's working. That you know that you're dominating that particular part. You know that there's no true brand confusion. You may not be able to narrow it down to a word or a phrase because there is a little bit of brand confusion. You're like, but I do this and I do this, I do that, I do that, I do that. And we break it down into what is the foundation. Where is all the things that you're doing connected to something? Because I don't believe as personal brands, we are stuck at doing one thing. We're just doing one thing to build the trust to do many things. So that means if I start with social media and I want to talk about content and I want to talk about what AI does in the social media world or the content world, if I want to talk about updates, if I want to, there is a foundation of everything that I'm doing. Even though if we say, in the chat, what word do you associate Moose with? right? What word do you associate me with, right? You're going to say a few things. When it comes to Moose, I'm always going to think about business. I'm going to think about the flight assessment, right? For me, it's going to be content. It's going to be AI now. It's going to be social media. It's going to be personal branding. Like it, but they all go together. But and so you have to think about: am I doing a good job to where when people hear my name or see my brand, it is associated with this. It's associated with that. And once again, not to box you in, but for them to identify you, because we are in a world of labels. We are in a world of titles, right? This is how we feel connected with you, or we relate to you, or we don't relate to you. Maybe you're too out of place, like out of pocket. I don't deal with that, right? So, these are important to understand as far as this is my brand. This is what I want to be known for. Here is the key word or words that are associated with my brand.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, it's just a critical exercise, man, because I think in the beginning, everyone says that. I hate labels, I hate titles, and I don't want to be put in a box. But there's a lot of examples of people who graduate from what they were first formally known for, or what they were first originally known for, and how they then start to scale and go to new things that may or may not fall under the same umbrella. But I've always been a believer, and I want your take on this. And by the way, shout out to everyone in the chats who is, putting in the words that they want to be associated with. Shout out to everyone who's live and active with us. But I've always been a believer, Nikki, that there is an online brand and an offline brand. Right. And that has always helped me understand, or at least keep some level of discipline around what to share and what not to share, so that I can push some level of brand awareness deeper into the mind of the audience without tarnishing either the relationship or the reputation that I have with them, nor cutting off some things that I may be interested in. Right. So for the longest time, I've been interested in, of course, baseball, fitness. And so I'll sprinkle that in there, but that's not the main thing that I want people to know about me, right? So there are some things that I do online, and there are some things that I keep completely offline. And that may change seasonally, but what I noticed is that when you have those two buckets, you never feel that you have to, say, push to be just for the sake of posting, or just to put content out there, because you never want to be at that point. If there's one thing I've learned, is that posting just to say I posted today is never a good thing. That is you posting out of desperation, you posting hoping that something clicks. There's no real thought. There's not a genuine attempt to get people to resonate or connect with what you're doing. So yeah, I'm curious to know your take on that, because but that's something that's been super helpful for me, because there are projects that I'm a part of that people know nothing about. And that's okay, because I see it as, in some way or some way or form, this is contributing to the experience that I need, but I don't need to bring it online, because I think it may add to that confusion. So there are some things, that I've done like that. But yeah, I'm curious your take on having maybe an online brand and offline brand. There's a person that comes to mind with that too, but yeah, let me know what you think on that.
Who's the person?
Maul. I think of Maul when I think of the online brand and the offline brand, just because of the way, even now, he's involved in multiple businesses. He talks about the security company and the daycares, but it's not a main core pillar. That's not the word that I think about when I think of Maul. When I think of Maul, I think strictly real estate. But that's not to say he's still not involved in the security company, the daycare, right? Like there are other things that he does, but it's not necessarily showcased heavily in his online brand.
So I almost semi-disagree, for the simple fact that I don't believe in the online offline. I believe in what you show the public and what you show your community. It doesn't make it on or off. Like when you have a community, and we can use mall for instance, right? Because he'll mention the, the daycares and the security and certain content, but it's not his main thing, like you said. But in his community, he could do a program. He can go in on, this is why I got the daycares, and low key, it's also a real estate play. Also, since I come from this background, I just utilize my resources and I created this business. So as entrepreneurs, as we're trying to find different ways to fund our real estate projects, what do you have in place that you can utilize their resources and create a company from to get some funds? His community would be interested in it because he's already shown proof of what he's done for his main word or phrase, right? So anything else that he does, they're like, oh, this is all to go back to real estate. This all has to do something with that. So I don't know if it's really a online offline situation, because the community wants to know who you are as a whole and how you got to where you are in totality. So though you have the easy proven factor of your main thing, right? And so you could take them step by step. But then there's some people, and we talk about real estate, right? Even though I don't know nothing, I'm just going based off an outsider looking in. So let's state that, okay? But for those people who look at real estate and from the investing side of like, okay, I got to buy a house, I got to buy a building, but I don't got no money, then some people will teach you how to do wholesale. Some people will teach you how to do house hacking and all these other things in order to get this particular building, this particular situation. But their content is all speaking about being the investor and getting this block and getting that block, that whole nine. But offline, okay, you can't get that. I know you can't. So let me show you this. Let me show you the way that I did it. Let me show you, what I did with this part and what I did with that part. So I gotta disagree with it, but I do believe there's different factors that we can't put online because it will confuse the masses. You may be able to sprinkle it there and just see maybe there's a shift in your audience that may be interested in it. But for the most part, there's the front facing value, there's the online situation, and then there's the community conversation.
No, that's a great perspective. I like that. Let's transition into, let me set it up this way. No matter how much we attempt to be, let's say, thoughtful people, or everything that we do, right? At the end of the day, that saying goes, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? And what that means is still, till this day, as much information is out there about seeing, not making an assumption right away off of what you see on never judge a book by its cover, like a lot of these cliche sayings. At the end of the day, people still look at what they see first, and they can't help, whether you know it or not, they're making assumptions about what they see. And so let's talk about clothing, style, and merch in the role of brand awareness, because that what you wear and what you showcase, that too also delivers a message to what people know about you, right? From the colors to the design to the style, there's a lot that goes into that. So I'm curious your take on merch, especially with what you all have done on the Deeper Than the Brand front, as it relates to, yes, that could be possibly a revenue stream down the line or at some point in someone's brand journey or business development journey. But let's talk about it from a brand awareness standpoint, because there's something about that where people see you and that can spark conversation, right? I can see the shirt and I say, create pressure. Wow, Like, what is that? Right? There's always, especially in airports, I think it's a great space for that. It always sparks conversations. But talk about the role of merch in brand awareness.
I don't want to state that, like, I don't want to go as deep as saying you are what you wear, but who you are is, from an outside looking in, does have a lot to do with your style, right? It could tell a lot about a person. Now, there's certain things that you may want to make like super staple, even if it's super low key. Like, you only wear these particular colors, or you may always wear a hat. Like, I always wear a hat, so when I come out without the hat, people are like, "Oh, I've never seen you this way. This is so great." So it's really interesting. But you could wear a hat. You can always have glasses, and shout out to the people who actually need glasses, right? You could be known for your chains. You could be known for the certain kind of shirts that you wear. And it could truly represent who you are, to the point where when you get some influence, people are going to want their own version of it, right? So this is where kind of merch comes in. Now, for me, I'm not necessarily super big on fashion, right? I'm not super big on it. I got mad hats. That's my thing, hats and sneakers, but I don't talk about sneakers. You just see the sneakers. You never hear me talk about it, right? So, but there are some sayings and some beliefs that I truly embody, and that whether you hear it on the podcast, whether you follow me personally, you're going to hear it some way, shape, or form, to where, okay, let me put that on a shirt, right? And merch is literally just like, and we've definitely talked about this on the podcast, where the difference between like merch and a fashion brand is, like, merch is like the sayings that you do, the what we call icons, the logos, the things that represent you go on a particular shirt, hoodie, shorts, hats, things like that, right? Where a fashion line is just that. You're coming out intentionally with different seasons, with different articles of clothing you care about. I don't necessarily care all about that. I care about, you know what? I create digital wealth. I'm a creator, right? Next one coming up is like, I create vibes. Create pressure is going to be different statements of what we create, right? So that is when you're looking at starting merch or starting a brand, you're looking at what are things that represent me. And if I'm going the merch way, what are some of the things or the images that truly embody the brand? What are people normally, what do people see of me? And that if I was to put that on an article of clothing, they would rock it too. Now, the thing with merch is that it is very community centered, where a fashion line is more of the masses, right? So you have to understand that too, where some people think, oh, I'm going to get into merch and I'm going to make mad money. And really, margins aren't the sexiest, right? Depending on what route that you go through. It could be, but there's a lot to it. For me, merch is definitely more of a community situation than anything. Like, our community has the Deeper Than the Brand shirts. Our community has the first batch of Create Pressure stuff. Like, that's what it is. And I'm okay with that, to the point where now I'm also thinking about, how do we put utility to the merch and not just make it, just an article of clothing, but it gives some type of access, or it shows something to truly show appreciation of that you're in the community, and only you are able to get that part. So merch is really good for another brand awareness thing, because if we've talked to Marcus from the Breakfast Club, and he was handing out a whole bunch of shirts just for brand awareness. You couldn't go look left or right without seeing this yellow shirt, and you're like, what is that? Boom, wear this. I'll give you free breakfast if you wear it, right? And this is what people are going to be like, yo, what's that? Where'd you get that from? And that's what kind of what you want to do with your merch, to make sure that it says, yo, where'd you get that from? What'd you do that with? You know? So, yeah, that's what I say about merch.
Love that. Love that. Hey, I saw some great questions in the comments. So if y'all got some questions just about any of what we've talked about, what we've talked about so far tonight as it relates to brand awareness and pushing that out for your own brand, definitely drop those. We're going to circle back towards the end and answer those questions. So make sure you drop them. You know, the final one I want to talk about, you covered that so strong. I don't even think I got anything to add on it. But the final one that I want to talk about as it relates to brand awareness is giveaways. And more specifically, I want to talk about the do's and don'ts of giveaways, because I've seen the one person who I know a lot of people are talking about, but I've noticed him consistently doing this, especially when it comes to new platforms and him launching something new, is Mr. Beast with his giveaways. He gives these atrocious giveaways that you're just like, how could you not want to engage or see what this person's brand is about? Right. So, for example, when Twitter rolled out their first payments for creators, you know, he said, hey, this is what I just got. I think it was a check for $27,000. He said, if you reshare this tweet, I'm going to pick one lucky person to give this whole check to. And so if you think about what's happening, he's introducing way more people into his brand for the cost of $27,000. What I love about what he's doing, and take this with a grain of salt, because I understand not everyone may have $27,000 to give on a giveaway. And that's why I say do's and don'ts, and more specifically, what is most relevant to you. He's looking at it from a high level as a business play. He's saying, I'm going to spend this money or invest it into marketing, into operations, with editors. So why not give it back to my community? It's a business write-off anyway, but in exchange for it, I can get more eyes on my brand, right? Now, this may not necessarily be a very strategic, I'm going to throw this out there and I want to attract this type of person to my brand, but he's at almost a mass market approach to this, to just get more people, you know, to learn about him, know him, and see what he's doing. I think he did another one with a Tesla. And so that is examples on a high level, but I want to see if you've considered doing any giveaways, whether to the community or just the public at large, so that you can get more eyeballs on the brand and what is happening internally.
I've done giveaways in the community for sure. I don't necessarily like the thought of giveaways out in public, and this is just my personal opinion. I do see the benefit. Super brand awareness, people are talking about you, they're following this, that, and third. But what I do know is that if they don't win, they're gone. You know? So they weren't necessarily there for you, they were there for the prize. And so I never liked that concept. But like I said, I truly, truly get it. We've done giveaways on this live. I've done giveaways on my birthday for my own personal lives. So, but that's still very community focused. That's definitely not, hey, giving away 15 iPads if you tag this person and you go here and you follow them and you tag everybody, 5 more people. It's a lot. It's a lot that I don't feel is necessary. Now, do they work? Yeah, they do work. They do work. But you want to also be aware that it could be very expensive. You know what I mean? It could be very, very expensive. So just some things to, be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. And I'm glad you brought that home because that is a critical point. You don't have a specific demographic of people that, like we said, you're targeting them. You know that they're here for what you have to offer and they're coming to stick around. They're here for what is currently happening. And if it continues to carry on, great. If it doesn't, bye-bye. See you later. That's usually how it happens there. So that's a unique experience altogether.
So people, we're having a little technical difficulty. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what's going on, but this is frozen. And so here's the thing. We may come back. We may not. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't change my screen. And I'm going to have to quit the whole live, but we're going to try to come back.
Is the stream still going?
I think the stream is still going. I still see it. The stream's still going. So you probably don't think, Nikki, there's nothing wrong, but there's something wrong. Okay. If I wanted to end the live, I couldn't. And if I wanted to change screens, I can't. So you're just going to see me with Moose being in the little corner. It's one of those things. This is the real life situations of going live. Great thing is, you got the whole lesson already.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
You got the whole lesson already. So it's really dope. Now, what I'm going to do, so bear with me, all 30-something of y'all who's watching this live, we're going to be right back. We're going to be right back. If not, we love you. We appreciate you. But stay right there. But I'm warning you, we may not come back. Okay? So give us 3 seconds. Okay. I think we're back. I'm waiting for Moose. I think we're back. Let me know if we're back. Let me know. All right? This is tech, people. Tech. It's not the friendliest. It's not the greatest. But let me tell Moose to come back. And so I appreciate your patience and I appreciate your situation. Like you just chilling with us. So let me get Moose back. Boom. And there we go. We're back.
And we're back.
We're back.
I love it.
Little
That's
hiccup.
smooth.
Little hiccup. But it's all good. You know what I mean?
That's
See,
smooth.
everybody's saying
That's
we back.
smooth. Well, listen.
Shout out to everybody.
Shout out to everyone for sticking around and coming back. That's fire. Well, listen, let me recap some of the points that we talked about that I felt really stood out on this conversation as it relates to brand awareness. And again, shout out to everyone who's been active in the comments. We can transition to questions after this too. So if y'all got those questions, like I said, drop them in the comments.
Yeah, I was like, if you have a question, drop it again because I favored it and I lost it once I had to start over. So I apologize.
Dang.
Apologize.
Well, drop those questions again. I think I saw something about, I can't even front like I remember exactly how the questions went.
Yep, shout out to everybody who stayed, though. Shout out to everybody who stayed.
Yeah, that was, I guess, meant to be. But check out some of these lessons, man. So number one, infuse your values into your brand to further advance your brand awareness. All right, it's one thing for people to know you for the type of information that you give out. It's another reason for them to know the reason behind why you do what you do. Infuse that into your values or infuse that into your brand, right? You may not think it's necessary, but I'm telling you, it will differentiate you when you talk about being able to resonate with a specific audience or resonate more than other brands. I mean, let's face it, it's an economic marketplace, which means that you're going to have competition. So if there's something that you can do to stand out before the next person, infuse your values in there. Number two, know your one word, right? I love that exercise that Nikki does, and you know how she just breaks that down so simple. It's like, hey, know your one word. What's the one word that you want people to think about, or even the phrase that you want them to think about when they think about your brand? You can always utilize content, by the way, and more specifically video and digital. I guess because we do this regularly, or that's the method for how we distribute. We don't say it verbally, but video distribution through content is another way to get people to know you, right, flat out. Now, again, when you go back to traditional marketing sense, the reason why you got to differentiate that is because there was print, there was ad, there was all this different stuff. So important to say that. And then the other thing is know the difference between what you share public and then that layer that Nikki added to it and what you make available to your community. So I love that. I kind of said it differently, said online and offline, but I love that because there are some things that you may not share online publicly to everyone, but you do say it in a controlled environment, more specifically to people who you trust, like your community. And then lastly, consider those do's and don'ts or pros and cons of giveaways, right? They will help, but with a specific budget, you really have to put something that has mass appeal for it to catch fire, but also know that the people who come with those challenges or giveaways, they're not necessarily there for you. You may be able to convert them. If you have a really attractive brand or what you represent and your values are aligned, you may convert them. But for the most part, you're going to see those people come and leave. So I'm curious, which of these 4 things are you currently doing? Are you going to think about doing maybe a little bit differently or even better? So make sure you let us know, man, in the comments on this video or on this live, which of these is going to be something that you go deeper into.
I like that. And we do have a question. Marshall asks, where's the line of authenticity versus giving away too much of yourself personally? I'll answer that first. I think it's setting your own boundaries, right? There's nothing that I can say or Moose can say that's going to be like, this is too much, because you may feel comfortable speaking on it. It may not be too much for you. It may be too much for us, but we may not be your audience, right? And I do believe that everything that we speak outside, like just speak into existence, it does help someone somehow, right? Whether it tells them this is what to do or this is what not to do, it does help someone somehow. So you have to set the boundaries of like, what am I willing to talk about? What am I willing to say, do, show? And don't feel as if you are giving away too much, because there's a thing called reality TV, and there's no such thing as giving away too much anymore. Okay? We've seen, if you heard the episode, people are streaming 24/7. You see them sleep. You see them go to the bathroom. You see them have conversations. You see them drift off in a little nap. You see everything. You see what they eat. There's nothing that's too much, but there may be something that's too much for you, and you have to identify that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I will say that I think the line for me, or the line that I recommend, is heal or overcome the challenge first. Talk about it from that viewpoint, then expressing in a moment of vulnerability or a moment that you might be susceptible to just sharing something that doesn't maybe have you speaking about it from a position of power. I'm not saying that this is a power flex or a power play, but if we know that the brand that you're creating is not for you, it's to help other people, then why share on something that you have not mastered or overcome just yet? Because you're not necessarily helping other people at that point. You're just using it as an opportunity to vent. I think in some cases that is warranted, it's needed, it's necessary, it makes you human. But I think for me, that's definitely one of the lines. Like, hey, share on things after you've overcome them, after you've achieved them, or after you've taken away the lesson, so that you can share it with your community or your audience, so that they too know how to have what you have.
That's a fact. And then another question was, are giveaways the best way for lead generation? I don't know if it's the best way. It's one way. But I don't know necessarily it's best way. You got to look at it as, once again, the pros and cons of giveaways. And especially do you have enough content when they do come to your page to stay? Because now you have to think about, okay, I could bring them to the place, but do I have enough to nurture them or to really strike up interest that they would want to follow? Or are they just here for the giveaway and I just have to work extremely hard to try to keep them at that moment? So it is a method of lead generation, but I don't know if I wouldn't go and say it's the best one. But Moose, your opinion?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, there's going to be different things that work for different people, specifically based on the skill set that you have, right? You might be someone who has maybe a skill set specifically in copywriting or just writing in general. And so what ends up being your greatest method for lead generation are the freebies that you put out as it relates to maybe the ebooks or the journals or the templates, right? If you're great at that, that might be your best approach. Now, maybe you're not the best person who is creating giveaways and can make things super fun and attractive. So don't put a strategy or don't follow a strategy that's not in line with something that you're really skill set to bring it to the masses. And again, I think the reason why it works for someone like Mr. Beast, and I'm curious, maybe someone can look up how many reshares that one tweet has from him and maybe drop it in the comments or even do it on your own time. But I'm sure when he does the math on something like that, the numbers are so high that it makes sense for him and his brand, right? So you just got to do the math on it. If I'm converting at, let's say, 2 to 10%, that might be the average conversion at a mass scale, but I'm having 100,000 or 1 million people to look at, and I think his videos get crazy views. But if you just do the math on that. So that means if I can get, I don't know, 2 to 10,000 people or 2 to 10,000 new leads, it's like, heck yeah, I don't care about the other 90 that go away, or the 90,000 that is, because it makes sense. So there's definitely a scale factor that plays into that I think you all got to take into consideration as well.
I'm trying to find the tweet myself now. I'm trying to find it.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I actually saw it. Yeah.
What does it look like?
Let me see. I don't know. He posted on his Twitter. It was a screenshot of his Twitter payout. And then he said, whoever retweets this or something like that, one lucky person will get this entire check. Maybe he took it down, because I know he does that after that's probably what happened, because I know he did it once before with a Tesla as well.
Oh, I'm like, I don't see it no more. Hold on. Dre asked, what are some of the things you do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to be aligned with your brand? I feel like my brand is exactly who I am as a person, but how can you expand in other areas? Moose?
Sorry, take that first one while I find it, because I think I'm on close to it. Damn, you got me down this rabbit hole. I said, just maybe answer the first part of that while I find the tweet, because you got me down this rabbit hole of finding it. I think I got some.
Oh, okay. So for me, what I do is easy. I research every day. Like, that totally embodies my brand, because if I'm helping people with creating content, this whole AI stuff, I gotta constantly be researching and watching and reading and listening. And so that's something that I do on a daily. Of course, create. I'm creating something every single day, whether it's a video, whether it's, written, audio, whatever. I'm creating every single day. So these are things that I do on a regular that truly aligns with my brand. But Moose?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked this question right now, because I think that answer is actually changing for me. You know, in the past, or and not in the past as if it's completely changed right now, but they were always in line with training, speaking, consulting, like doing that kind of in the field type work, so that I can deliver on the things that I'm teaching, if that makes sense, right? I never wanted to teach on a concept that I know nothing about, or I'm just sharing best practices from afar. And so now I think the same rules apply, but from a business standpoint as a practitioner. So right now, I'm doing probably more interviews than I've ever done before. And that's actually a lot to say, because when I was in the hospitality industry, the amount of interviews that I did with that business was out of this world. We were doing them pretty much every other month, if not every month. And so that's one of those ways where it's keeping me really in tune with the level of talent that's in the marketplace. Again, so it's the same thing, but more specific to business, about being a practitioner and someone who's getting live reps in the field, not just teaching on these concepts from afar. So real quick, let me tell you, I found it. So he did take it down because I guess the giveaway finished or whatnot. But he tweeted this on July 14th, and he said, "Whoever has the most liked reply to this in 48 hours gets all my Twitter revenue for the next month." That one tweet alone, and I don't know what the reshares are because there's a screenshot on the blog. This one tweet had 542,000 likes, 257,000 replies, and overall it generated 93 million views. And so again, just to show like the numbers at mass scale when you play it, and I'm sure the way he's looking at it, I think he ends up giving away $25,000 from, the revenue that he collected. But when you do the numbers on that in terms of how many people came across it, because he had this crazy shareability factor, yeah, it's crazy.
Sheesh. Well, people, it's the end of the live, and we appreciate you. Moose, thank you for the conversation. This was great.
Likewise, thank you.
Please drop your takeaways. What is one or two things that you got out of this? Whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this replay, drop the takeaways in there. Of course, listen to the audio experience of Nicky and Moose. The video experience always drops Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern for y'all. After show drops on Wednesdays. Creator Ave drops Fridays at 6 a.m. audio only. Go check all that stuff out. We got content for y'all, specifically only for y'all, not for everybody, just for y'all. So we love and appreciate you. Moose, I like the hat.
Appreciate it. I came with, I know this was like one of your favorite colors. So I was like, hey, I haven't worn this one.
I like the hat. Yeah, I liked it.
I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come through with the blue.
Yeah, the blue looks good on you. I'm just saying. Anyways, people, we are out. We appreciate you. You know what we're gonna say.
Peace, y'all.